Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb and Friends. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, joined by my co-host, Ali Dalsimer today. I want to welcome you guys tuning in on the simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X. Going to bring in our friends over on IG so they can be a part of our conversation. And last, but certainly not least, going to connect with our friends over on Amazon. I'm excited about this next guest that Ali and I are going to be able to talk to, not only about his career, but also about how he's giving back and making a difference as well. And we're now live on Amazon Live with Cyrus Webb and Friends. If you guys are new to us on the Amazon platform, welcome. Make sure you guys hit that follow button either here in this corner or down below. We're excited to welcome to our program today actor, writer, and director Erik Jensen to our broadcast. You guys know him from some great projects like For Life, Mr. Robot, also The Walking Dead. But he's also a comic book fan and collector. We're going to talk to him about what he's doing with that, his newest project that's getting a lot of attention, but also how you all can help him in making a difference. Ali, Erik, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Hi, Ali.
Hey.
The pleasure's definitely all mine. Erik, I'm going to get us kicked off here before I throw it over to Ali. I was saying to you before we went live here that congratulations are in order. Your new film, Brooklyn, Minnesota, has just picked up another award, the Soho Film Festival. What has it been like for you to see the way that people are gravitating to this story and also, especially, of course, to the roles?
Well, Brooklyn, Minnesota is a labor of love. It was a truly independent film that my wife and I wrote together with our friend Han, and Jessica and I directed it, and I had to act in it too. But I had the pleasure of and the privilege of acting opposite Amy Madigan, and the further pleasure and privilege of acting opposite my real life daughter, Sadie Jensen Blank. So it's a family story. It's about a widower dad and his daughter, and they have to go back for the funeral of his father. And they go from Brooklyn to Minnesota, and family stuff happens, and it's a coming of age movie, really. And it's really, especially with Amy Madigan on board and everything, it's been a real pleasure to watch audiences' reactions to it. People are really connecting to the idea of being estranged from family members. Unfortunately, there's a lot of that's going on in the country right now. Estrangement is not as unusual as it used to be. And so, we tapped into that. And so people are really reacting to that, and also the coming of age stuff too, I think.
We're going to get more into that. And also, as I mentioned, Erik, what you're doing now to make a difference. But before we do that, I'm going to turn it over to Ali. She has a couple of questions for you.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Cyrus. And yeah, congratulations, Erik. The Audience Award at Soho is amazing. And I've been watching all your clips, and I'm excited to see the full film when it's available.
Right on.
So in addition to everything else you have had going on in your life, you also have survived an aneurysm and stage 4 cancer, which is amazing.
Yeah, so, I had a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, you really did, which is just got to be life-changing. And so what I'm wondering is, given that experience, how has that shaped you and your work? And also, if you could go back and revisit any of your projects, your earlier works, like what is something you would change? Would you change the structure, the tone, character's arc?
Well, I mean, projects are set once they're abandoned. So in terms of film, once it's set, you can't really change it. I think that in the first part of your question is truly profound. I've had this profound experience while we were shooting the movie. I didn't know I was sick while we were shooting the film. I had no symptoms or anything like that. And then one day I woke up and I was having a problem with my colon, and there was some blood where there shouldn't have been. And we decided, well, I'll get a colon exam when I get back to New York. So it was just 2 days before finishing shooting. We thought it was no big deal. And I went in for my colonoscopy, and the doctor announced to me when I woke up that I had stage 4 cancer. And it was a real blow because we had just been on this real high about making a very healing movie about families coming together. And I just made it with my daughter. My daughter is 15 now, but she was 14 when we were making the movie. And and she decided on that film that she really wanted to be an actor. So we had really turned a corner as a family, my wife and I and my daughter together. And so it was distressing at first, but once I gave in to having to be a good patient, which is not easy for me, the idea that the movie might be the last thing that I worked on really drove me to act ultimately out of love. And to edit, we had to edit the film while I was undergoing chemo. I'm cured now, by the way, just so you know. But the editing choices that we made during that time, I really were more from my heart than anything I've ever done before, because I thought this was going to be the last testament to the love I have for my daughter, my wife.
Wow.
And so I edited from my heart, not from my head. I think if I would change anything about any of our projects going back, I think I would sort of strip out any intellectual stuff, because stories are felt things. They're not necessarily thought things. I think it's more effective when they're felt.
Yeah. That's a powerful message. I think in part you answered a little bit of my second question, but I did want to tap into this because you've mentioned working with your wife and now with your daughter. You've written a number of films with your wife, and all of them have to do with just really telling stories that make a difference. You had The Exonerated, based on interviews that you conducted with 40 death row inmates who were exonerated. Aftermath, where you conducted interviews with civilian refugees in Jordan in 2008. Coal Country, about the 2010 Upper Big Branch mine disaster. And then, The Line in 2020 about the New York healthcare workers working the front line for COVID. And so what I'm wondering is, I was originally going to ask how your experience would have influenced your current project, but you said that. So now I'm wondering, how does the fact that you've already got an ethos of caring, how does that impact what you plan to do next? Are there stories that maybe you wouldn't have considered telling before that now you want to tell?
Well, I think that's, if I can answer your question in sort of a backwards way, I think I'm answering the question. I think I'm more open about my own struggles now. A lot of the interview-based documentary plays and films that we've done, have to do with people who have been through ordinary people who have been through extraordinary things, and the kind of bravery and fortitude that one needs to survive the subjects that we're talking about there, death row, the war in Iraq, being on the front lines of COVID, has always impressed me. I've always been more impressed with other people's stories than necessarily so revealing of my own. But again, like I say, storytelling is about feeling. And, if you do stories that are closer to your heart, I think it touches people more, which is the experience that we're having with Brooklyn, Minnesota now. It keeps winning all these audience awards and best film awards and stuff. I think going forward, I'm interested in stories of resilience, stories of resistance, which is kind of important right now. Stories of and that every story at the heart of it. We wrote this big comedy that's going to have a film. Our next film is going to have a bunch of wonderful Hollywood actors in it, and I can't talk about it too much. It's a big secret. But once it happens, like, it's a comedy and it's big and it's broad and it's sort of like Clue. It's like a farce. But all of the characters, I wrote it after I had gotten the go ahead that I was well. And I've never written a comedy before, but I've always loved the Marx Brothers and stuff like that. And so I thought, why not take a swing at a comedy? Why not do the Mel Brooks thing and really write the stuff that I really enjoy watching? And so I thought about all my friends and what kind of characters they could play. And we wrote this big farce that takes place in one location. We're going to produce it independently. All of the actors are going to jump on board, 23 actors. And at the root of it, even though it's a comedy, at the root of it, there's love.
Yeah.
People love what they do. People love each other, even when they're mad at each other. I find a lot of the times that anger is rooted in rejection. And so like that's altered the way I tell stories, I think, more than the types of stories I want to tell. I'm not interested in telling a cancer survivor story. I've lived that story. But I'm happy to talk about it. Do you know what I mean?
I do. It sounds like really what I'm hearing is that your compassion has broadened and you want to bring the love forward and the personal connections forward.
Absolutely. And I just think, the accidental thing that happens, you have to, when you have cancer, after it, you have to look at what it has gifted you.
Yeah.
Even during it, I had to look at what it was gifting me. It was gifting me time to really appreciate my family. It was gifting me space and quiet. All of a sudden, after acting in TV show after TV show and movie after movie and play after play and making stuff with my wife, I had to slow down. And it really made me take stock of what my priorities were. And so, things have shifted. The world has shifted. And I really do believe in people's hearts and the potentiality of people to be good people more than I did before. Because, man, I didn't realize what a great community I had around me until I got sick. So cancer was a gift in many ways. I definitely, time is on fire and I'm not wasting my time anymore. I don't procrastinate anymore. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful. And it's a lesson that we can all learn from.
Well, in the movie too, Brooklyn, Minnesota is ultimately about forgiveness.
Yeah.
It's a very chaotic family that my character and his daughter come from. And it's a very funny film. But also it's very heartfelt, and at the root of it is in the final moments of it, really forgiveness that kind of settles on the audience and the people connected to that more than anything. So that's really what, if there's anything that I'm going to do going forward, it's in the fight against cruelty, presence, forgiveness, and love is really the answer.
I think that's a beautiful way to wrap up. That's lovely.
Thanks,
Thank
Allie.
you for sharing that. That's really powerful. And I'm looking forward to seeing the movie.
Amen. Thank you. Brooklyn, Minnesota should be distributed soon. We're just fielding offers, as they say. So,
Very good.
Is Cyrus here still? Cyrus, did I overtalk my stay?
No, you didn't overtalk anything. Allie, great questions. Really
Thanks, Allie. That's really great questions. Yeah.
I want to reset real quick, Erik, for our audiences joining us. We're up to now 1,008 over there on Amazon. So I want to say hello to you guys. You're watching Cyrus Webb and Friends. My co-host for today's segment is Allie Delsmer. You just saw her. But our guest today is Erik Jensen. Erik is a writer. He's also an actor, director. We were talking about his project, his newest film that's getting a lot of attention in Brooklyn, Minnesota. But also, we're going to talk to him about his love of comic books as well, which is really interesting segue as to what else you're doing with your life right now, Erik. I want to pick up on something that you were discussing with Allie, though, and that was about resilience, about telling stories of resilience. Because, I think for a lot of people, when they go through something as you have, a lot of times they're thinking more so about just moving on. You seem to be very mindful of not only, of course, being able to move on, like you were talking about with Allie, but also make sure you're making a difference. How did you decide that you wanted to take your love of comic books and being a collector and being able to make a difference that way?
Well, I've been a comic book nerd my entire life. I'm a proud fan of people. The man who created the Fantastic Four and a lot of other Marvel characters with Stan Lee, a guy named Jack Kirby, the guy who created co-created Spider-Man, Steve Ditko. I've just always been a big comic book art fan. I was actually a comic artist for a while. When I first moved to the city, because I grew up in a family of artists. So instead of learning to fix engines or whatever, I learned how to draw. And so I was a comic artist for a while, and wrote a graphic novel that the late great Neil Adams did the cover for. So I've been a comic book guy for a very long time. And ever since I was a kid, I found a great comfort in it, in reading them, and I found empowerment in them. Reading it, things like the X-Men. Oh, this is a teenager who's allowed to speak their mind. This is a teenager who fights against incredible odds and survives. And I felt a deep connection to those characters. So what happened was, during my illness, I had realized that I had this massive comic book collection, thousands of books. And I really needed to get rid of it. I needed to move past that. And but I wanted to do it in a conscious way. So I decided that I would get the best ones graded and slabbed. There's a comic book here. They get slabbed and graded like a baseball card.
Yeah.
And they get a rating from CGC or one of the other rating companies. And so I decided to get the best ones slabbed and graded and offer them up for sale. And the net proceeds of it, after expenses, are going to be donated to Memorial Sloan Kettering's Children's Cancer Center. So because Memorial Sloan Kettering saved my life.
Yeah.
And so, if fans of The Walking Dead or comic book fans or fans of Mr. Robot or whatever want to log on to my eBay or my comic shop site and buy a comic, they'll know not only are they getting something great for their collection, they're also contributing to the health and well-being of children with cancer. Because superheroes are great, but beating cancer is greater than anything a superhero can do.
Yeah, such a great thing. It really does tie in well with the conversation you were having with Allie, though, Eric, because you said you didn't want to tell the cancer survivor story. You'd lived that, but was it an easy decision for you to decide to share? Because I've interviewed a lot of people over the years, and a lot of times they don't like to share a lot of the personal things that are going on. They want the emphasis to stay on their craft more so than themselves. What about for yourself? Did it make it easier thinking about the family aspect of where you are that you wanted to share? Or how did you make that decision?
In a way, I'm always sharing with my work as an artist. I just didn't realize what I was sharing. I'm just more conscious of it now. But in terms of sharing my personal struggle and stuff like that, we really needed the support. And we got a lot of support, not only from our friends and family, but also from the Walking Dead community. My good friend Scott Gimple posted that we were struggling with a health issue, and the Walking Dead community came out. I only did a few episodes of that show in season 5. I was a very minor character. But the whole community came out and really helped us out. They put together a GoFundMe so my wife could have afford to have somebody help me that our insurance wouldn't take care of. We were in danger of losing our insurance, and a good friend of mine on the tail end of me being sick hired me for his TV show, so I get my SAG credits towards my insurance.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly what your question was now, but I'm sort of answering it in a circumnavigated way, if that's okay. Yeah.
No, you are. Yeah, I was just really curious. Was it an easy decision for you to decide to share? Yeah.
It was not an easy decision, because especially, cancer, stage 4 cancer was a death sentence for so long. And now they've come up with these amazing, innovative treatments. They use some groundbreaking treatments with me. They implanted a pump in my body that's inside me that delivers high dose chemotherapy. Talk about superheroes, high dose chemotherapy directly to my liver, so it bypassed the rest of my system. So I didn't have a lot of the side effects that people used to get from heavy density chemotherapy. So deciding to share is a personal decision. Not everybody has to do it. As long as I'm not exploiting myself or exploiting the disease and actually making a connection over it, I think I've just run into more people with the artwork and with the cancer survival and stuff like that who want to share their stories with me. And I think it's been a very impactful and opening to me. And people come to me all the time and give me the stories of their survival stories of beating cancer or living with HIV or any of the things that people struggle with these days. And those of us, we find each other.
Right.
You know, we find each other. And I think, again, I don't want to be beat up too much on a theme, but love ultimately is the answer, and caring is ultimately the answer. And I'm not a doctor. I'm a storyteller. I'm not a priest or a minister. I'm just a storyteller. And that doesn't mean that stories don't lack, that it's pie in the sky, like everything's all good. Stories are about overcoming difficulties. And I'm more tapped into that now. So deciding to share was at the end of the day, was a fairly easy prospect.
We're so glad you did, and so glad that you're showing us by example, Erik, how we can all be able to make a difference. And I think that's why when it was first pitched to me about talking with you about what you were doing with your comic books, that's the thing that I was inspired by, was, you know what, this is a way all of us can look around and say, what can I do to make a difference? I know a lot of things seem so big, but this is something that all of us can look at and say, okay, I can do this, or I can have a garage sale and, give some of the proceeds, to this cause that matters to me, or look at the people around me to see how I can be able to be of service to them. I think it's just such a great example of that. I want to say hello to you guys over on IG as well. Midnight East Book Bar, hello to you. Natasha Frazier, hello to you. You guys joining us on YouTube, appreciate you guys as well. Again, Erik Jensen has been our guest today, everyone. He is a writer, he's an actor, director. We've been talking with him not only about his new film, Brooklyn, Minnesota, that's making its way through the film festivals right now, winning a lot of awards, but also the impact he's making by giving back, as someone who survived cancer, being able to use his love of comic books to be able to now be able to give back and make a difference as well. Erik, let our audience know, how can they stay connected with you?
They can stay connected with me on Instagram. I'm Jensen, Jensen 123 on Instagram. It's pretty easy to find me. And, if they want to learn more about our work, they can hop on a Kindle and read our book, Living Justice, about creating documentary theater. And they can also find somewhere on the internet, if they scour the internet, they'll be able to find a copy of The Reconcilers. Or if somebody does buy one of my sets of comics off of eBay, I'm going to send them a free autographed issue of the Reconcilers as well.
Love that.
Yeah.
Ellie, again, so glad you could join us for this episode of Cyrus Webb and Friends. And Erik, it goes without saying, you're welcome back here anytime.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure to talk to you guys today. It's very healing.
Yeah. It was a great honor to talk to you today, Erik. Thank you.
Peace and love. Yeah.
And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb and Friends. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.